15 years. Hidden secrets. A town that remembers, and a town that forgets. Tonight, two women will uncover the truth no one dared to speak. Fires that destroyed more than buildings, shadows that hid lives, and a darkness that never left. Black Hollow holds its breath, but the past will not stay buried. Are you ready to face what they found? Stay, if you dare. The bell rang at 6:17 a.m. No one in Black Hollow had touched that bell in 15 years. Not since the fire. Not since the screams. Not since the night 6 people walked into the old hospital, and only 5 walked out. Emma Hayes was pouring coffee when she heard it. One slow chime. Then another, her hand froze midair. Because she knew something no one else in town knew. The bell rope had been cut. Years ago. By her. Outside, the fog swallowed the street whole. By the time Emma reached the church steps, the police were already there. And so was the body. Daniel Reed. The journalist who had arrived a week ago asking about the fire, asking about the missing nurse. Asking about the 6th person who was never officially listed. Emma had warned him. Some stories don't want to be told. He smiled when she said that. Now he was lying dead beneath the bell tower. Eyes open. As if he'd seen something impossible just before he died, they said it was an accident. They always say that in Black Hollow. Accident. Misfortune. Tragic coincidence. But Emma saw the bruise around his wrist. Like someone had held him. Tightly. And on his jacket. Ash. Fresh ash. From a fire that no longer existed. That night, someone knocked on Emma's door. 3 slow taps. When she opened it, no one was there. Only an envelope on the ground. Inside was a photograph from 15 years ago. The night of the hospital fire. 6 shadows in the background. But when Emma counted them again, there were 7. And written across the photo in black ink were 4 words, "You left me there." Emma dropped the photo. Because the 6th person, the one no one talks about, the one who was never officially recorded, was supposed to be dead. And if the bell rang this morning, it means someone came back. Emma didn't sleep that night. The photograph lay on her kitchen table, its edges curling slightly from the damp air that seeped through the old house. She had turned it face down twice, but each time she felt drawn back to it, like it was breathing. 7 shadows. There had only been 6 people at the hospital fire. She was sure of it. She remembered the heat clawing at her throat, the smoke turning the halls into a maze, the sound of metal collapsing somewhere deep inside the building. And the screaming. She pressed her palms against the table. "No," she whispered. There were 6. But memory is a fragile thing. And guilt makes it weaker. The kettle began to whistle behind her. Emma jumped, heart racing, then shut it off with shaking hands. Outside, the fog still hadn't lifted. It clung to the town like a secret. Someone knows, she thought. Someone remembers. And worse, someone wants me to remember too. By morning, the news had already spread. Black Hollow woke up hungry for whispers. At the grocery store, conversations died when Emma walked past. At the bakery, Mrs. Calder pretended not to see her. Even the postman gave her a look that lasted just a second too long. The town had always been like this. Quiet on the surface. Rotting underneath. Sheriff Collins was waiting outside her house when she returned. He didn't knock. He never did. He just stood there, hat low over his eyes, like he was carved from the same gray stone as the church. "We need to talk," he said. Emma crossed her arms. "About the journalist?" "About you," he replied. That wasn't what she expected. He stepped inside without asking. His boots left damp prints on the wooden floor. You were seen near the church early yesterday, he said. I live 2 streets away. I walk there often. You also spoke to Reed the night before he died. Emma didn't answer. Because that part was true. Daniel Reed had shown up at her door 2 nights ago, soaked from the rain, eyes bright with that reckless curiosity only outsiders carried. I know about the fire, he'd said. But something doesn't add up. She should have sent him away. Instead, she listened. He said the hospital records were altered, Emma said quietly now. That one patient file disappeared the day after the fire. Collins watched her carefully. And what did you tell him? Emma met his gaze. I told him to leave town. And he didn't. No. Silence settled between them. Finally, the sheriff sighed. Emma, some things are buried for a reason. She almost laughed. Buried things don't ring church bells, she said. After he left, Emma pulled the wooden box from beneath her bed again. Inside were the clippings she'd sworn never to read again. One headline caught her eye. Local nurse missing after hospital fire. Her name had been Lila Dunn. 23 years old. New to town. No family nearby. Officially, she was listed as presumed dead. But no body had ever been found. Emma remembered Lila's face now, pale, frightened, standing near the stairwell the night everything went wrong. You have to help me, Lila had whispered. Emma squeezed her eyes shut. I tried, she murmured to the empty room. But the truth was heavier than that. Because when the roof began to collapse, Emma ran. And she never looked back. That evening, the fog finally began to thin. For the first time in days, the sun broke weakly through the clouds, casting long shadows across the town. Emma followed a feeling she couldn't explain. It led her to the edge of Black Hollow, where the abandoned hospital still stood behind rusted fencing and warning signs no one obeyed anymore. The building looked smaller than she remembered. But darker. Like it had absorbed every scream and kept them. She slipped through a gap in the fence. Inside, the air smelled of wet dust and old smoke. Her footsteps echoed down the corridor. Every sound felt too loud. Every shadow felt too close. She reached the stairwell where she last saw Lila. The metal railing was still warped from the heat. The walls still stained black. Emma touched the surface lightly. I'm sorry, she whispered. Something shifted behind her. A faint scrape. She spun around. Hello. No answer. Only the sound of her own breathing. Then. A voice. Soft. Cracked. Almost part of the walls themselves. You shouldn't have come back. Emma's blood turned cold. Because the voice wasn't behind her. It was above her. At the top of the staircase. She forced herself to look up. A figure stood there, half hidden in shadow. Thin. Still. Watching. Emma's voice trembled. Who are you? The figure tilted its head slightly. And when it spoke again, the words cut deeper than any scream. You left me to burn. Emma stumbled backward, her shoulder hitting the wall. No, she whispered. That's not possible. But the figure took one slow step forward. Into the light. And Emma saw the truth written across a face that should have turned to ash 15 years ago. Lila Dunn was alive. Emma's blood ran cold at the sound of Sheriff Collins' voice. I know you're in there, Lila. The words echoed through the burned hallway, calm and patient, not angry, not rushed. As if he had all the time in the world. Lila's fingers dug into Emma's wrist. You see now, she whispered. He was there that night. Emma's mind reeled. That's impossible. He helped with the rescue. He locked the east wing doors, Lila said, her voice barely air. He said it was to stop the fire from spreading. Another step echoed outside the stairwell. Slow. Confident. Emma's thoughts raced. The East Wing. That's where the unregistered patients were kept. The rooms without files. Without visitors. Without proof they were ever there. You're sure? Emma asked, though the truth was already forming like a storm inside her. Lila's scar tightened as she swallowed. I saw him arguing with the hospital director before the alarms went off. I heard the word, inspection. I heard them say everything had to disappear. Colin's shadow stretched across the cracked tiles. Lila, he called again, softer now. You've been hiding long enough. Emma forced herself to breathe quietly. We need another way out, she whispered. There isn't one, Lila replied. Not from this stairwell. The footsteps started again. Closer. Emma's heart pounded so hard she thought it would give them away. Think. Think. Her eyes darted around the stairwell, broken railings, loose bricks, a collapsed section of ceiling halfway down the corridor. Then she remembered. The laundry chute, she said suddenly. Lila blinked. What? There was a service chute near the storage rooms. It led outside, behind the boiler unit. Lila hesitated. It hasn't been used in years. Neither has this building, Emma shot back. Colin's voice was now just beyond the doorway. I don't want to hurt you, he said. But you're forcing my hand. Emma felt something inside her snap. 15 years of silence. Of pretending. Of living beside people who smiled at her in daylight and buried truths at night. No more, she whispered. She grabbed Lila's hand and pulled her down the opposite side of the stairs, keeping low. The building groaned as if protesting their movement. Behind them, Boots stepped onto the first stair. Emma, Colin said calmly. You don't want to be involved in this. She froze. He knew. Of course he knew. Black Hollow always knew. Too late, she muttered. They reached the hallway and rushed toward the storage wing. Dust rose around them with every step. Somewhere behind them, Colin's pace quickened. Stop, he commanded. Emma ignored him. They reached the narrow service corridor. Rusted carts lined the walls, and at the far end stood the old laundry chute door, half hanging from its hinges. Emma yanked it open. A dark vertical tunnel stretched down into blackness. Lila stared at it. You want us to jump into that? Emma listened as footsteps thundered closer. Yes. Without giving herself time to reconsider, Emma swung her legs inside and lowered herself as far as she could before letting go. For a split second, she was weightless. Then she slid hard against cold metal, the smell of rust filling her lungs, before crashing onto a pile of damp fabric and debris below. Pain shot up her side, but she scrambled away from the chute opening. Lila, she whispered urgently. A second later, Lila slid down too, landing beside her with a sharp gasp. Above them, Colin's voice roared through the shaft. You can't run forever. Emma pulled Lila toward the cracked boiler exit. Sunlight streamed faintly through the broken back door. They stumbled outside into the overgrown yard behind the hospital. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Lila looked at Emma, fear and something else, hope, flickering in her eyes. He won't stop now, she said. Emma turned toward the town visible beyond the trees. No, she replied quietly. But neither will we. In the distance, church bells began to ring again. Slow. Deliberate. Like a warning. Emma didn't stop running until the hospital disappeared behind the trees. They followed a narrow dirt path that led toward the back road into Black Hollow, both of them breathless, shoes soaked from wet grass and mud. Only when they reached the rusted fence near the old quarry did Emma finally slow down. Lila leaned against the metal, trying to steady her breathing. "He'll tell them," she said. "If he hasn't already." Emma nodded. Sheriff Collins wouldn't keep this quiet. Not now. Not when the truth was moving again. "He doesn't need proof," Emma replied. "In this town, suspicion is enough." Lila's eyes searched her face. "Then why help me?" Emma hesitated. Because she still remembered the heat of the fire. Because she still heard the screams some nights. Because she had spent 15 years trying to convince herself she wasn't responsible. "Because I left you," Emma said quietly. "And I won't do it again." For a moment, Lila didn't speak. Then she gave a small, tired nod. "Then we need somewhere safe," she said. Emma thought fast. Safe places in Black Hollow were rare, and temporary. But one name came to mind. "The old print shop," she said. "Tom still owns it. He barely trusts anyone, which makes him perfect." Lila frowned. "Will he help?" Emma gave a dry smile. "Tom hates the council more than he hates people. So yes." They moved carefully along the back streets, avoiding the main road. As they approached town, something felt different. Windows opened a fraction as they passed. Curtains twitched. Doors closed softly. The town already knew. Black Hollow always knew. When they reached the print shop, Emma knocked twice, then once, the way Tom preferred. A bolt slid back, and the door opened just enough for one suspicious eye to peer out. "Emma?" Tom muttered. "Do you have any idea what kind of morning this has been?" His gaze shifted to Lila. The color drained from his face. He whispered. "That's not possible." "It is," Emma said. "And we need your help." Tom stared for a long second, then stepped aside without another word. Inside, the shop smelled of ink and old paper. Machines long and used sat like sleeping animals in the dim light. Tom locked the door carefully. "You'd better start talking," he said. Emma told him everything. About Daniel Reed. About the missing files. About the hospital not being an accident. And about Sheriff Collins standing at the center of it all. Tom didn't interrupt once. He just listened, jaw tight, hands folded on the counter. When Emma finished, silence filled the shop. Finally, Tom exhaled slowly. "I knew something was wrong back then," he said. Records vanished. Reports rewritten. But no one wanted to fight it. People here prefer comfort over truth. He looked at Lila again, like he still couldn't believe she was real. "If Collins knows you're alive," Tom continued, "he won't stop until he fixes that mistake." Lila crossed her arms. "Let him try." Tom shook his head. "You don't understand. This isn't just him. It's the families behind him. The council protects its own." Emma leaned forward. "Then we stop playing quiet," she said. "We expose it." Tom gave a humorless laugh. "Expose it to who?" "This town. Half of them already know. The other half don't want to." Emma's voice hardened. "Then we go outside Black Hollow." That made Tom pause. Daniel Reed wasn't working alone, Emma continued. He had an editor. Contacts. If we find what he found, we take it beyond this town. Lila's eyes lit with cautious hope. Tom rubbed his chin slowly. "That," he said, "might actually scare them." A sudden knock slammed against the shop door. All three of them froze. Another knock followed. Heavy. Authoritative. Tom's whisper barely made a sound. "Don't move." The handle rattled. Then Sheriff Collins' voice came through the wood, calm as ever. "I know you're in there, Emma." Emma felt the walls close in again. Because now the game wasn't hidden anymore. Now it was open. And Black Hollow had chosen its side. The knock came again. Slow. Heavy. Final. Emma felt every muscle in her body tense as Sheriff Collins tried the door handle once more. The old wood rattled but held. Inside the print shop, no one breathed. Tom moved first. Quietly, he gestured them toward the back room where stacks of old newspapers formed narrow aisles like a paper maze. Back there, he whispered. There's a cellar hatch under the cutting table. Emma grabbed Lila's wrist and followed, their footsteps muffled by dust and loose sheets of paper. Behind them, Colin's voice carried through the door. Tom, he called. I don't want to damage your property. Open up. Tom didn't answer. He slid the heavy cutting table aside just enough to reveal a square wooden hatch. He lifted it carefully, exposing a narrow set of steps leading down into darkness. Go, he whispered. I'll stall him. Emma hesitated. He'll know you helped us. Tom gave a thin smile. He's always known I don't belong to his side. Another loud bang shook the front door. Emma didn't argue again. She climbed down first, Lila right behind her. Tom lowered the hatch and darkness swallowed them whole. The cellar smelled of damp earth and old ink. Emma pulled out her phone, its weak light barely cutting through the gloom. Where does this lead? Lila whispered. Storage tunnels, Emma said. From when this place delivered papers across town. Half of them collapsed years ago, but some still connect to the drainage lines. Above them, a loud crack split the silence, the front door had given way. Boots entered the shop. Emma's pulse thundered. She grabbed Lila's hand and moved deeper into the cellar, following the low brick passage ahead. Voices echoed faintly from above. He was here, Collins said calmly. Search the back. Emma quickened her pace. The tunnel sloped downward, the air growing colder with every step. Water dripped from somewhere unseen, each drop sounding like a ticking clock. They won't stop, Lila whispered. I know. They'll come after anyone who helps us. I know that too. Lila's voice trembled slightly. Then why keep fighting? Emma stopped walking. For a moment, she didn't answer. Then she turned, her phone light catching the raw exhaustion in her face. Because 15 years ago I ran to save myself, she said softly. If I run again now, it means they were right to burn that place. Lila studied her for a long second, then nodded. Okay, she said. Then we don't run anymore. A sudden noise echoed through the tunnel behind them, the distant scrape of the cellar hatch opening. Emma's stomach dropped. He's faster than I thought, she muttered. They pushed forward until the passage split into two narrow corridors. Emma frowned. I don't remember this part. Lila glanced down each path. One tunnel sloped upward slightly. The other disappeared into deeper darkness. Up means closer to town, Lila said. Down means closer to the river. Emma listened. From behind, faint footsteps echoed into the tunnel. From ahead, only silence. River, Emma decided. If we reach the waterline, we can cross the old service bridge. They turned into the darker tunnel and hurried on. The passage narrowed until they had to move single file, shoulders brushing damp brick. The air smelled of moss and rust. Then, finally, a faint gray light appeared ahead. They emerged beside the riverbank, hidden by overgrown reeds and broken fencing. The old metal service bridge stretched across the water, its surface slick with rust and time. Emma exhaled shakily. We made it. But Lila didn't move. She was staring back toward the tunnel entrance. Emma followed her gaze. A silhouette stood there. Sheriff Collins stepped into the pale daylight, hat still perfectly in place, as if he hadn't just crawled through half the town to find them. You're persistent, he said mildly. Emma felt her chest tighten. So are you, she replied. Colin's expression didn't change. This doesn't have to end badly, he said. Come back. We'll say you were confused. Misled. People will understand. Emma almost laughed. 15 years, she said. You had 15 years to tell the truth. Colin's eyes hardened slightly. Truth, he said, is whatever keeps order. Lila stepped forward, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. You mean whatever keeps you in control? For the first time, Colin's calm mask slipped, just a fraction. That fire saved this town, he said quietly. Some things inside it were never meant to surface. Emma took Lila's hand. Then it's a good thing we survived, she said. Behind them, the river roared softly under the bridge. Ahead of them, the road out of Black Hollow stretched into the distance. And for the first time, escape felt real. Collins didn't move to stop them. He just watched. That road won't save you, he said. Emma met his gaze. No, she replied. But it will expose you. She turned, pulling Lila onto the bridge. The metal groaned under their steps, each echo carrying across the water like a promise. Behind them, Sheriff Collins stood still as stone. But Emma knew something had changed. Because now they weren't just running from the truth. They were carrying it out of Black Hollow. The bridge rattled beneath Emma's feet as she and Lila hurried across, the river churning loudly below them. Neither of them spoke until they reached the far side. Only then did Emma dare to look back. Sheriff Collins was gone. Not chasing them. Not shouting. Just, gone. That's worse, Lila murmured, reading Emma's thoughts. It means he has another plan. Emma nodded. Collins wasn't the kind of man who panicked. If he'd let them go, it meant he believed the town itself would finish the job. They followed the narrow road leading away from Black Hollow, bordered by thick trees and broken fencing. The sky had turned a dull gray, pressing low like another storm was coming. We need Reed's evidence, Emma said. If he contacted anyone outside town, that's our way in. Lila frowned. Where would he keep it? Emma thought back to Daniel's nervous energy, the way he'd always carried his satchel, even into the diner. The motel, she said suddenly. He never unpacked properly. Said he didn't trust the place. They quickened their pace. The roadside motel sat half a mile out, its flickering sign buzzing faintly in the silence. Only one car stood in the lot. Emma slowed as they approached. The front office door hung slightly open. That's not good, Lila whispered. Inside, the reception desk was empty. A radio crackled softly behind the counter, broadcasting static. Emma checked the guest ledger. Room 6. They moved down the exterior walkway, every step feeling too loud. Emma slid the key from beneath the loose flower pot Reed had shown her days ago. She opened the door slowly. The room had been searched. Drawers open. Mattress lifted. Papers scattered. But not everything was gone. Lila spotted it first, a loose floorboard near the bed. Emma pried it up. Inside lay a small recorder, a notebook, and a flash drive wrapped in plastic. Emma exhaled shakily. This is it. A car door slammed outside. Both women froze. Through the thin curtain, Emma saw two figures step out of a dark sedan. Not Collins. Councilmen. Lila's voice dropped to a whisper. They got here first. Emma grabbed the evidence and shoved it into her coat. Then we leave first, she replied. They slipped out the back window just as footsteps reached the motel door. As they ran toward the tree line, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in 15 years. Not fear. Not guilt. Momentum. Because now they had proof. And Black Hollow's secrets were finally small enough to fit in her pocket. They didn't stop running until the motel vanished behind the trees. Emma's lungs burned, but she didn't slow. The flash drive in her coat pocket felt heavier than anything she had ever carried, heavier than guilt, heavier than memory. It felt like truth. They reached an abandoned bus stop along the highway, its cracked bench hidden beneath peeling advertisements. Lila bent forward, catching her breath. "Where now?" she asked. Emma pulled out the recorder Reed had hidden. "We find out what he knew," she said. She pressed play. For a moment, only static filled the air. Then Daniel Reed's voice crackled through, low, urgent, recorded in secret. "If anything happens to me," he said, "this recording needs to reach someone outside Black Hollow." Emma's grip tightened on the device. Reed continued, "The hospital fire wasn't just arson. It was a cover-up. The building housed undocumented patients transferred through a private program run by members of the town council. No oversight. No records." Lila's face went pale. "There are names," Reed's voice said. "People who disappeared before the fire. People listed as transferred but never arriving anywhere else." A pause. Then Reed's tone dropped even lower. "And the program didn't end with the fire. It moved. Quietly. To the old mining site north of town." Emma's heart lurched. "The mine?" she whispered. Lila shook her head slowly. "That place was sealed years ago." "Not sealed," Emma murmured. "Hidden." The recording clicked off. Silence returned, thicker than before. "They're still doing it," Lila said, her voice barely audible. "Still making people vanish." Emma stared down the empty highway stretching away from Black Hollow. "Then we don't go to the police," she said. "We go to the press. National level. Reed's editor, maybe." Lila nodded, but her eyes drifted toward the distant tree line. A low rumble of engines carried through the air. Emma turned. 2 vehicles sped down the road toward them. Black. Unmarked. Coming fast. "They tracked us," Lila whispered. Emma grabbed her hand. "Then we move faster." They darted off the roadside and into the forest, branches snapping underfoot as the vehicles screeched to a halt behind them. Doors slammed. Voices shouted. Emma pushed through the trees until the ground sloped upward and the forest thinned. Ahead, a rusted service road curved toward the northern hills. Toward the mine. Lila stared at it. If Reed was right, that's where the answers are. Emma nodded, breath unsteady. "And maybe the proof we need to end this." Behind them, men crashed through the underbrush, getting closer. Emma tightened her grip on the flash drive. "Then we finish this," she said. Together, they ran toward the road leading to the mine, toward the place Black Hollow thought no one would ever return to. The service road twisted upward through the hills, cracked asphalt swallowed by weeds and loose gravel. Emma and Lila climbed fast, their breaths sharp in the cold air. Behind them, the shouting had faded, but that didn't mean they were safe. It meant the men chasing them knew exactly where they were going. That mine was declared unstable, Lila said between breaths. No one was supposed to go near it after the fire. Emma glanced at the rusted warning sign leaning sideways in the dirt. "Funny how places get labeled dangerous right after they become useful," she replied. They reached the top of the rise, and the entrance came into view. A wide iron gate blocked the tunnel mouth, chained and marked with old hazard symbols. At first glance, it looked abandoned. But Emma noticed something else. Fresh tire tracks. Lila saw them too. "They've been using it," she whispered. Emma stepped closer to the gate and touched the chain. It wasn't rusted solid like it should have been. It had been opened recently. Before she could react, a voice echoed from behind them. "I was hoping you'd come here." They turned. Sheriff Collins stood halfway down the road, hands resting calmly at his sides. 2 councilmen flanked him, blocking the path back. Emma felt her chest tighten. "You really don't give up," she said. Collins gave a faint smile. "Neither do you," he replied. "That's what makes this unfortunate." Lila stepped forward. "How many people are down there?" Collins didn't answer immediately. He looked toward the sealed tunnel, then back at them. "This town survives because some truths stay buried," he said quietly. "The program kept dangerous problems contained. People who would have brought chaos here." Emma's voice sharpened. "You mean people without families? Without power? Without anyone to look for them?" Colin's silence confirmed it. Emma felt anger burn through her fear. "You burned the hospital to hide them," she said. "And when that got risky, you moved everything underground." Collins tilted his head slightly, like he almost admired her for figuring it out. "The fire solved many issues," he admitted. "But it created one mistake." He looked at Lila. "You." Lila didn't flinch. "You tried to erase me." "I tried to protect this town," Collins corrected calmly. Emma stepped in front of Lila. "No," she said. "You protected control." Wind rushed through the hills, carrying the distant hum of engines somewhere below. Emma pulled the recorder from her pocket and held it up. "Reed already told the story," she said. "And we have the rest." For the first time, Colin's expression darkened. "You don't understand what happens if that leaves this place," he said. "Black Hollow collapses. Families destroyed. Lives ruined." Emma met his gaze steadily. "They already were." Silence stretched between them. Then Collins sighed softly, like a man tired of arguing with the inevitable. "I was hoping you'd see reason," he said. He nodded once to the men beside him. They stepped forward. Emma grabbed Lila's hand and bolted toward the gate. "Climb," she shouted. Lila scrambled up the metal bars as Emma followed, boots slipping against cold iron. Behind them, the men rushed forward. Emma hauled herself over the top and dropped hard onto the other side, rolling onto the gravel. Lila landed beside her with a sharp gasp. They didn't stop. They ran straight into the dark mouth of the mine. Behind them, Colin's voice echoed into the tunnel. "You can't hide in there forever." Emma's reply vanished into the darkness as she pulled Lila deeper underground. "We don't need forever," she whispered. "We just need the truth." And somewhere in the depths of the mine, metal doors slammed shut, as if the earth itself had locked them in. The mine was colder than Emma remembered, damp air pressing against their skin. Shadows stretched along the jagged walls, and every step echoed like a warning. The faint smell of smoke and earth mingled, reminding them that fires here weren't natural, they were deliberate. Lila's hand trembled in Emma's. "This place, it hasn't been abandoned," she whispered. Emma nodded. "They've been using it all these years. Moving people, hiding evidence, making sure the town forgets." A dim light appeared up ahead. Flickering bulbs hung from rusted cables, illuminating metal doors and storage crates stacked haphazardly. A sign painted decades ago read, "Authorized personnel only." Dust covered the letters, but someone had clearly passed through recently. Emma approached a crate and carefully opened it. Inside were folders, patient records, and photographs, evidence of what Daniel Reed had recorded, plus the files they hadn't expected to find. Names, dates, disappearances, transfers that didn't exist, and reports of the program that controlled who survived and who vanished in Black Hollow. Lila stared in shock. So many people, erased. Emma flipped through the pages. All those families that trusted this town, betrayed. A sudden noise made them freeze, metal scraping along stone. Footsteps. Colin's men had followed them into the mine, more persistent than they realized. Their voices echoed off the walls, calling names, searching, trying to intimidate. Emma hissed, "We have to move. Fast." They stuffed as many records as they could into their backpack and pockets, taking the flash drive and recorder with them. Every step deeper into the mine brought them closer to the source, the central control room where the program had been. At the end of a narrow tunnel, a heavy door stood ajar. Beyond it, monitors flickered, documents were scattered, and files filled the room from floor to ceiling. Lila's eyes widened. "This is what Reed was looking for." Emma nodded. "And now we have it all. Names. Dates. Proof. Enough to expose everything." Colin's voice echoed from behind them, closer than ever. "Emma. Step away from the files. You don't understand what you're holding." Emma's hands shook, but she met the voice calmly. "We do understand. And the world will too." They grabbed the last few folders, shoved them into their bag, and bolted toward the mine's old service exit. The faint light of morning crept in through cracks above, signaling the end of night, but not the end of what they had started. Outside, the air felt warmer, freer. Lila turned to Emma. "We can't go back now." Emma nodded. "No. We go forward. And we make them answer for everything." Behind them, the mine doors clanged shut, trapping shadows, secrets, and the past beneath stone and rust. Ahead lay the road to truth, exposure, and the reckoning Black Hollow had never anticipated. Emma and Lila drove in silence along the narrow backroads, the backpack of evidence pressing against Emma's side. The morning mist hung low, curling around trees and fence posts, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Every rustle, every bird call made them tense. They were no longer running just for survival, they were running for justice. Lila broke the silence. "Do you think they know what we have?" Emma shook her head. "Collins might suspect. But the town? Most people don't want to see the truth." Lila frowned. "That's why we have to go big. National level. Reed's editor. The press. If we leak this carefully, no one can ignore it." Emma nodded, her mind racing through the steps. Contacts, evidence verification, the timing. They couldn't afford a single mistake, not after 15 years of secrecy. Suddenly, a car engine roared behind them. Emma's eyes widened. A black SUV, tinted windows, moving fast, tailing them through the bends. "It's him," she whispered. "Collins." Lila gripped her arm. "He won't stop until he gets the evidence back." Emma's jaw tightened. "We can't let him. Not after everything." They took the next turn sharply, narrowly avoiding a fallen branch. The SUV followed relentlessly, tires crunching gravel. "Go to the old mill," Emma decided. "It's isolated. We can hide, plan our next move." The mill had long been abandoned, broken windows like empty eyes staring from the walls. They slipped inside, bolting the rusted doors behind them. Dust and spiderwebs coated every surface, but it was safe for now. Lila set the backpack down, shaking slightly. "Do you really think the press will believe us? After all this time?" Emma looked at the flash drive and folders, feeling the weight of years of hidden truths. "They have to. We have everything, proof of the program, names, documents, recordings. Reed's voice, our records. It's irrefutable." Lila exhaled slowly. "Then let's do it. Let's make Black Hollow answer." Outside, the faint sound of tires on gravel reminded them Collins wasn't far behind. He was relentless, but for the first time, Emma felt a surge of hope. They had the tools, the proof, and the drive to finally end the town's silent terror. Emma picked up the recorder and whispered, "We start now. Every secret, every lie, exposed. No one hides forever." Lila nodded. "This is it." And somewhere in the distance, beyond the fog and the shadows of Black Hollow, the first light of truth began to break through. Emma and Lila worked quickly inside the abandoned mill. The laptop hummed softly as Emma uploaded the files from the flash drive, connecting them to a secure email account she had created weeks ago for just this purpose. The folders, photographs, recordings, all meticulously organized, were ready to leave Black Hollow behind and enter the wider world. Lila paced nervously, glancing at the cracked windows. "Do you really think they'll take it seriously? 15 years, this town has buried so much." Emma didn't look up. "They will. Reed's recordings prove intent. The documents prove it wasn't an accident. The press can't ignore evidence like this." Outside, the faint hum of engines grew louder. Emma froze. Colin's black SUV had followed them again, parked just beyond the mill's tree line. His shadow stretched long across the cracked concrete as he stepped out, calm as ever. "He never gives up," Lila whispered. Emma gritted her teeth. "Then we finish this before he can stop it." She clicked send on the email. The files were uploaded to a journalist she trusted, Reed's editor, with instructions to verify and publish immediately. A confirmation ping appeared, "Delivery successful." Lila let out a long breath. "It's done." "Almost," Emma said. Her eyes narrowed. Collins isn't the only problem. Some of the council still have people watching, still have ways to bury the story. Suddenly, the SUV door slammed. Colin's voice cut through the fog. "Emma. Lila. Step out now." Emma grabbed the recorder and backed toward the mill's rear exit. Lila followed. "You can't hide in here forever." Collins shouted. "Give me those files. You don't understand what this will do to Black Hollow." Emma's voice was steady. "No, you don't understand. The town has already suffered enough. This ends now." The press email had been sent, the truth out of their hands. Even if Collins took the files, it wouldn't matter. The story was already traveling beyond the town's borders. Collins glared, his calm demeanor cracking. "You don't know what you've unleashed." Emma stepped forward, holding the recorder high. "I do. I've seen what happens when lies control people. That ends today." Lila gripped Emma's hand. Together, they slipped through a side passage behind the mill, hidden from the SUV and the shadows of the town's enforcers. Somewhere in the distance, a notification pinged. The first article had gone live. The title flashed boldly across the screen, "Black Hollow's Secrets, Decades of Disappearances Revealed." Emma exhaled, a mix of relief and adrenaline flooding her. "It's out. Everyone will know." Lila smiled faintly, a spark of hope breaking through her fear. "Then it really begins." Collins stood in the fog, staring at the mill. For the first time, he wasn't in control. And Black Hollow would never be the same. By evening, Black Hollow was in chaos. Word of the files and recordings had spread faster than anyone expected. National news outlets had picked up the story within hours, and social media buzzed with outrage over the hospital fire, the missing patients, and the council's decades-long cover-up. Inside the council chambers, the remaining members sat around the long oak table, faces pale and rigid. Sheriff Collins stood at the head, jaw tight, staring at the incoming messages on his phone. "They've gone too far this time," Collins growled. "Every outlet in the state knows. If this reaches the governor, the entire council is finished." Councilwoman Mercer slammed her fist on the table. Finished? We are finished. How did two women expose all of this? Two. And Reed's recordings make it irrefutable. Collins ran a hand through his hair. They had the evidence prepared. The files. The photos. The recordings. This isn't a leak, this is a war we weren't ready for. Councilman Harris leaned back, voice shaking. We cannot, stop the story now. People outside are already asking questions. Townsfolk are starting to come forward. Black Hollow's name, it's destroyed. Collins' eyes darkened. Then we contain what we can. Find the women. Get the files back. Control the narrative before the flood becomes unstoppable. Meanwhile, Emma and Lila were miles away, hidden in a rented cabin just outside town. They watched the news coverage on a small laptop, adrenaline still humming. They're panicking, Lila said, voice incredulous. Look at the council's statements. They're trying to spin it like it was all administrative errors. Emma nodded. It doesn't matter. Too many people know now. They can't undo this. And Collins, he can't stop us either. Suddenly, Lila's phone buzzed. A notification from a local tip line. Dozens of anonymous calls had come in from Black Hollow residents, confessing what they knew, sending photos, documents, and personal accounts of the cover-up. Emma's eyes widened. They're helping us. The town itself is rising. Lila smiled faintly. Even those who stayed silent for years, they can't anymore. Emma clenched her fists. We've forced their hand. Now it's time for the council to face everything, legally, publicly. Collins, all of them, they can't hide behind lies anymore. From the darkness outside, the fog rolled over the mountains surrounding the cabin. For the first time, Emma felt calm. The storm had reached the town. The reckoning was beginning. But somewhere deep in Black Hollow, Collins' mind was already plotting. And he wouldn't go down without a fight. The town of Black Hollow trembled under the weight of its own secrets. By dawn, journalists, investigators, and authorities had descended on the streets, cameras flashing and microphones probing. The council members huddled inside the chambers, faces pale, whispers frantic, while Sheriff Collins paced the hallway like a man drowning in his own control. Emma and Lila arrived just as the first news crews were setting up outside the town hall. They walked through the crowd, unnoticed at first, carrying only the recorder, the flash drive, and the final folders, everything needed to seal the truth. Inside, the council tried to maintain composure. Collins stepped forward, attempting to dominate the room as he had for decades. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, voice steady, these allegations are exaggerated. A journalist interrupted, holding up the flash drive Emma handed over. Are these documents real? Emma nodded. Every word, every name, every recording. This is the truth Black Hollow tried to bury. Gasps filled the room as reporters and investigators plugged in devices, scanning files, listening to Reed's recordings. The council could no longer spin the narrative. Evidence was undeniable, patients deliberately hidden, files erased, lives erased to protect power. Collins' eyes locked on Emma. For a moment, fury and fear battled in his expression. He opened his mouth, but no words could stop the momentum. Outside, the townspeople began arriving in small groups. Some timidly, others with documents and photographs of their own. Black Hollow itself rose, breaking decades of silence. Emma turned to Lila. This is it. No more running. Lila nodded. No more hiding. Hours later, the first arrests were made. Council members were taken into custody. Collins, facing irrefutable evidence, was led away quietly, a man who had built a kingdom of secrets finally brought down by truth. Emma and Lila stood at the edge of the square, watching the sunrise illuminate the town they had escaped years ago and now returned to expose. The fog lifted, revealing streets, homes, and faces once shadowed by fear. "It's over," Lila whispered. Emma shook her head slowly. "Not over, just beginning. Black Hollow has to rebuild. And people have to remember what happened, so it never happens again." They turned toward the road leading away from the town, knowing they had survived, fought, and changed everything. The weight of guilt lifted slightly, replaced by something stronger: purpose. The recorder clicked off, the files delivered, and justice finally walking through the streets. For Emma and Lila, the night of darkness was over. For Black Hollow, the light had finally returned.